Hey guys, welcome to lesson 3. In this lesson, we're going to talk about landing page optimization and what you guys can do to continuously improve the performance of your landing pages over time. So one of the most critical components when it comes to landing page optimization is A/B testing. So some of you guys may be familiar with A/B testing, but for those of you that aren't, I'm just going to explain the concept at a basic level. So A/B testing is exactly what it sounds like. You're testing two variations, a control and an experimental page, a variation. You're running these as a test simultaneously. So you're going to create a landing page, and most of the landing page software, which I'm actually going to tell you a lot more about in the next lesson, most of the popular landing page builders out there today offer A/B testing as a standard feature. So when you go in there and you create your landing page, that essentially, that first landing page that you create is your control. And you're going to not alter that one. You're going to leave that one as your main control variation. And then you're going to create a variation B, and you're going to change something on that landing page. Now, in a minute, we're going to talk about all the different things that you can change and how to do all of that. But you might change one little thing, or you might change it completely. It may be like an entirely different landing page, like a whole different approach. It might use different images. It may have different copy, maybe a completely different offer, but it's for the same product or service. So you're driving traffic from the same place. So in AdWords, you've got an ad, and you have a single URL for your landing page, right? So these variations, they share the same URL. So you put the URL into AdWords and you use it as your destination URL. But what I encourage people to do is run 50% of the traffic at random. They split it just back and forth to variation A, the control, and then run the other 50% of the traffic to a variation B. And over time, you'll be able to see which variation is the clear winner. So you'll be able to find out which approach works better. So at a basic level, that is what A/B testing is you're just testing one thing against another simultaneously to find out which thing converts the best. So these are the recommended processes and best practices that I'm going to share with you over the next few slides. First of all, let's talk about the process. So in general, at a high level, what I typically recommend doing is before you start getting into all the nitty-gritty little tiny details of testing, I recommend starting with two drastically different landing pages at first. And these landing pages may have lots of things different on them. And they may have a different offer, they may have a totally different approach, a copy approach, a different feel, they may have different imagery. There's all kinds of things that you might be different, but what I suggest is starting as broad as possible with your first initial test so that you can just even figure out, okay, which ballpark do I need to be in? Because sometimes, what if you start with the wrong approach and then you're tweaking little things on the wrong approach in the first place? You know what I mean? Like, A/B testing isn't going to help you if you didn't even have the right approach to begin with. So that's why I encourage you, before you get into all the little details of testing buttons and testing colors and testing, a headline and just one thing at a time, I encourage you to really think as big picture as you can and say, I need to test two drastically different approaches to make sure I'm just going down the right lane in the first place. Okay, so start there, start big, start with big stuff. Then once you find a winner from your two different approaches, then you can move into testing all the little smaller things and finessing and perfecting that landing page. That's just the approach that I recommend. I'm not saying that that's always 100% across the board the right way to go, but that is what we have found to work the best. So that's the general process. Now I'm going to talk to you about some best practices. Once you have found your best approach, now you can really get into this really nitty-gritty of A/B testing. And now after you do that first test, I do suggest that you only run one test at a time. So this means that you would only have one variation. You would have your control and your variation running at any given time. You don't want to have like 6 different variations running actively at the same time. it would get crazy confusing. You want to be able to see what was actually working and what made a difference and what didn't. It just won't work. So I suggest one test at a time. Another thing that I suggest doing is pay attention to things that make a difference to your bottom line. So this might be conversions that are happening later on after the conversion that you're measuring on this page. And what I mean by that is, say for example, you have a landing page where the conversion that you're optimizing for on that page is a free quote. And obviously you want lots more free quotes, right? Well, imagine that you're optimizing for something that is giving you a lot of people requesting free quotes that aren't your ideal clients. Maybe they're people who are just they have no money and they're searching for a cheap option, and it's really not a good match for what you offer. In that case, you don't want more conversions necessarily, because all of the wrong conversions are going to waste your salespeople's time, and they're just going to spend a bunch of time and not actually get any clients. So you want to pay attention to conversions that are happening later on, like maybe in the next step, to make sure you're optimizing for the right thing and for the right type of individual that you want to reach. Okay, so it's not always just get as many conversions as you can at the lowest cost. In fact, there's a lot of clients that we work with at our agency that we try to get the conversion up. We don't try to necessarily lower the conversion rate, but we do try to screen the potential prospects really, really well, and it does lower the conversion rate, but it ends up giving them and producing higher quality conversions in the end. And so their sales team's really happy, because when they do get a conversion, when they do get a lead, it's really high quality. And so I encourage you to please don't look at just conversion rates, period. Pay attention to the sales funnel as a whole and what it's producing. So it's a really important thing to remember. Also, I do encourage you to split the traffic evenly, but make sure it's random, and run it always at the same time, and make sure you always have that control, like we talked about, that is unaltered. That'll always be your original unchanged landing page. And here are some things that you guys can test when you're thinking about, okay, well, what am I going to do different on this variation that I'm creating? A headline is a good place to start. That's a very common one. We test that. We almost always test the headline. So I would encourage you to write 2 different headlines and test that. The call to action. So you can literally test, different text on the button, or just a completely different offer. Instead of a phone call, you could encourage people to submit a form, and you could see which way ends up working better at generating good leads, good quality leads. Is it a form or is it a call? You can test different graphics, different images. You can test different buttons, even changing the button color. We've seen that sometimes that makes a difference, because sometimes buttons tend to blend in, and so if you make them stand out with like a bright red color or bright orange or something that stands out, that can make a difference. Copy can make a difference. Another one we've seen make a big difference is form fields, and having either more form fields on there to better screen and get higher quality conversions, or less form fields if you're trying to just get more conversions and really lower that barrier to entry. Because anytime you have anything that's required, the more form fields you require, typically the lower the conversion rate. So those are just a few examples. There's obviously a lot more different types of things that you can test besides just these, and you can test things that aren't even necessarily things that you see. You could test types of traffic, different types of traffic coming in to the landing page, and test which types of traffic work better for your specific landing page. So there's all kinds of things you can test, and I encourage you to just always be testing, always trying to think of something else you can test, because it's never just cut and dry. It's different for every business, but these are just a few ideas to get you started. Also, because it is so important to have a really great headline, I wanted to just encourage you to practice writing some headlines, and I wanted to give you a little template here or some examples to get you started. But one thing that I typically have done, and I just have always sort of naturally picked up on this, but I read a lot of the just magazine headlines and news headlines and things like that for catchy ways to write headlines, because they obviously know what they're doing. So some of these will be similar to things that you'll see on different magazines and online news sites and things like that. So I encourage you to just go look around at different sites like Dig, and check out their headlines. And of course, always remember to match the copy of the ad with the keyword. But here's one example that I like to use is, would you like, and then insert the benefit or the good thing that the person wants without a bad thing. So like insert a negative there. So you're positioning it as, do you want this thing without all this bad stuff? It's just, whatever your product or service is, you can fill in the blanks there. Or something like, let us handle whatever the bad thing is that your product or service prevents them from having to do to get the benefit that your product or service offers. So try filling in the blanks there with a few different types of words and phrases to see what you can come up with. And here's an example. Would you like to instantly have an amazing smile? So that's the clear benefit there in that headline. And this is an example of a landing page that it has a clear call to action. It has a very clear, specific offer. It's a special offer just for new patients. It's got the call to action multiple times. It's focusing on the benefit. So this benefit is the smile. It's not focusing on what it is that you're doing or getting, although that is listed out there on the page, but it's really focused on the benefit instead of just listing a bunch of things that you get or features. So that's why I wanted to share this example with you. And then, we talked about this just a little bit before, but any kind of free or reduced price offer, anything to lower that barrier to entry where there's a low risk environment is really great. If you're the type of business that you need appointments, or you are trying to get leads to schedule an appointment, I suggest Calendly or Schedule Once. Those are two great calendar options that are really easy to use, and you can embed them right onto your landing page or link to them from your landing page, and it syncs with your calendar. So Calendly has a free option, and then Schedule Once is very cost effective, very affordable. I think it's only like $5 a month is their starting price. But those are great tools for if you do non-e-commerce and you do calls and sales appointments. Those are great options to use with your landing pages. And then of course, make sure you're optimizing for conversion rate and cost per conversion, but paying attention to quality. You want to make sure you have quality leads coming in. So just a real quick note here on any limitations that I've seen is that there are some businesses that can generate leads all day long, but if you don't have a good process in place to convert those leads into customers, you're still going to be losing out on profit. So, you got to get traffic to your landing page, and then you've got to convert them. But after that, it's really up to you to make sure you have a good process in place to convert that lead over to a customer. So that's a common, scenario that I see where people are saying, why is Google AdWords not working for me? I'm getting leads, but I'm not making any money. And in that case, I would say either the lead quality is not great and you need to do a better job of screening, or look at your landing page and see who it's speaking to really, and is it speaking to your ideal customer, and is it screening out bad leads, and then what's happening after the lead comes in. What's happening, or is someone getting right back to them? Are they getting a phone call? Do you have an automated sequence in place? So there's a lot of things that need to happen after the lead generation takes place to make sure that you're taking full advantage of what Google AdWords is producing for you. All right, so next up we are going to dive into just comparing some of the most popular landing page builders out there and platforms that you guys can use to actually start building your landing pages. So I'm going to share some of those with you guys in the next lesson. So I'll see you guys in lesson 4.